Hello there. This is Carpenter Dan doing an assembly demo for Sweet Mountain Farm. What comes in the kit? All right. After you've opened the box and cut down the sides of the box, your pre or half assembled kit will look like this. You'll see a top cover, a bottom board, and there's an inner cover hiding in there. And then you're going to see all of the box sides in pairs nested together like this. Okay, so you don't have to, there's no assembly to be done on the bottom board, the top cover, or the inner cover. Only the boxes. All right, so you're going to take the boxes out. You're going to put them out separately. All right, and then you'll find a bag of screws. You see the bag on top? You'll find a bag of screws. So you want to take them out. Okay, and then you need to assemble some tools. Okay, we'll have an instruction sheet, a cordless drill with a T10 Torx bit in it. We're going to have some Titebond 3 glue. A correction, you're going to get some Titebond 3 glue and these tools. This is the part of doing it yourself assembly. You'll want a driver with a T10 bit. You can use the same one that's in the drill. They'll pop out for hand tightening at the end. Okay, I use, to speed along the process, I put the glue in a little reservoir with the glue. So you just need a box, a coffee cup will work, a wet rag, okay, for wiping up the glue, a mallet, and then some sandpaper and a sanding block, or if you have an orbital sander, you can affix this to it and use that at the end. This is an 80 grit. That's the same grit that was used to sand these blocks. Oh, now, all of these and some water, okay, for cleaning the brush or helping wipe up spilt glue. All right. Your box comes in two parts. Okay, so each two of these L's makes a box, and they're all paired together. And we have material L's for 5 boxes. And each pair, and they're already paired, is a box. Okay, so these are all pre-assembled in the shop and matched together, and they were sanded as a unit, put together. Okay, so each one has a letter on one end, or one of the ends, and it has a letter on, let's see, can even be hidden behind on one of the other ends. Okay, so we'll start with this one here. All these have letters that correspond to the pair, and then we'll set these out of the way as we work on one box, like so. Okay. Move our screws over here and move our other materials over here. Okay, so now what I do to prevent our table from being glued, we put something to catch glue underneath it. I wouldn't use newspaper. What you do is you find the two letters, okay, and those are the letters that match together. And what I do is at first, you can double check, just barely start it like that, and then line it up and barely start it like that. Okay, and actually you can watch this several times, but when you make this go together, you want to hit on the long axis. Okay, that's going to drive this down to those pins, this is going to stay caught up over here, and it's going to pivot. It's going to rotate. And that's what we want. We want it to rotate as you pound it on rather than bending this corner, because this is a pre-squared, pre-glued corner, and we want to minimize stress on it. Okay, so you tap down like this. You see this is sinking in a little bit. A few taps there. Okay, so that's pre-fit. Okay, you don't, after a while you won't have to do the pre-fit. Okay, so if you pound here, that causes this to come out, and this is actually rotating this up. You can see this joint opening. That's where we want the stress to go, not here. And so you can do that by tapping like that. And to get it off, just hand fold it all the way around like that. Okay, so now you know how it goes together. We can proceed to gluing. You set the two long ends up so that they're like that. Okay, and then we get our something to hold the glue. Now you have tight bond. Okay, I'm just keeping this around for an example. But what I actually use, because in the shop, where did I put that jar? Okay, so this is a storage jar. It came out of a gallon jar of tight bond glue. Okay, that you obviously won't need to buy a gallon, but I just pour it right in there. Okay, and then I will use the rag to wipe it. Okay, now you'll see why I use this. Okay, I use this because it makes a speedy job of gluing up these ends. So you just stick your brush in there and twirl it. And what I do is I just get a whole bunch of glue on there, and I just glob it right across there, because you want to push it back into there. And then you go around like this, twirling your brush and getting all the sides of the fingers like that. Okay, just wipe up a little excess there, and then you go on to this one over here. Just push it on. Okay, and then you push it through. Okay, and it'll drip down the black side. It'll drip down the front side. Okay, you got it all glued. So a preliminary wiping, just wipe up a few of the drips there. Just kind of disappear it into the rag. Get on the other side, there will be some drips there too. Just do that. Wipe up some drips there, like that. Okay, now, if your letters might disappear, okay, but it's obviously that the long side goes over there like that. And you can tell you got it right because the handles are in the same direction. And the frame rests are, if you hold the top of the handles, like that. Okay, so what you do here is like before, just start that by hand. Start by hand, not by hammer. And then go up here and just start that by hand, okay? Tap on the long axis. Okay, then turn your box down, tap down a little bit. Now it's still wide there. Instructions actually did say you can use a cloth. I never use a cloth, so I'm going to stand it, and I want to be able to see what I'm doing to the joints, okay? And you see there's still some space in the joints. Okay, you want to make sure they're thumped tight. Okay, now our holes have been pre-drilled, okay, and they were also pre-screwed. You grab a screw, and you grab the screw gun, and since they're pre-drilled, the screw is going to go down the hole that's there already. You really can't make it go any different. Hey, you screw it almost all the way down like that. And then you hand tighten it like so. Okay, I'm going to grab another screw here, and we will do this side of the joint. All right, a little jumpy on the drill. We don't want to overdrive these, so we'll just hand tighten here like so. And there is a little divot in here that I made for the head of the screw. Okay, then you flip the box over, and you'll see over here, might want to make sure the corners are tight. Okay, now it's not absolutely critical. If the box is recalcitrant, it's going to go down the same hole. But there's going to be some tiny little spaces in there. Sometimes there are, okay. And then we got one more over here. Now, if you see the end here, you see how the space is opened up there a little bit? Okay. You can cinch it up a little more like that. Okay. So now that they look all even going up and down. Okay, and then again we're going to hand tighten. Like so. Okay. There's the box. Okay, and there's a little inner lip here. So that actually, okay, so now if you want to, now where did I put that clamp at? Your box will function just perfectly, but if you see a little gap before the glue dries, you can put an F clamp on it, otherwise known as a bar clamp. Make sure it's not hitting a finger on the end, because then it won't clamp anything. Okay, but you can tighten it. Okay, and if there's any space to be chunked out, it might go out, it might not go out. Okay, so what we generally do in the shop when we use pre-assembled ones and pay the extra shipping charges, or you guys pay the extra shipping charges for that, is we might put filler in it if we think that the gap is too wide. Or we might not if we don't, because there's this inner joint here, so actually air is not going to get through here. And the bees are going to clog it all up. And they're going to take this nice rough and they're going to propolyze the whole thing, all right? Okay, so now after the box dries, okay, it's going to be square. Now it was already squared with actual squares and clamps in it in the shop when it was pre-fitted. Okay. So what you're doing here at the end is you're going to, after it dries, you're going to sand off the glue marks. Okay, you can do that with just 80 grit sandpaper and a sanding block, or you can attach it to an orbital sander, or get any other 80 grit type of sandpaper that you want to use. So just let it dry for a day and it's ready for the field.